What's up, guys? Today I wanted to talk about a really cool topic to me: One Piece TCG versus the Pokemon TCG. There's been a lot of discussion about card games in general, how they differ, and what games should you really play right now. Well, I play both games pretty competitively at the highest level, and I wanted to talk about what the differences are between both trading card games and why one might be better than the other, or you should pick one or the other. If you enjoy my content, please check out this channel, subscribe and like for all Pokemon competitive content. And if you enjoy One Piece content, I do have a second channel where I've been trying to upload for One Piece content, but I've been a little bit lazy with it, so it's not great, but you guys can check that out. I am competing in One Piece Nationals, and I do have a One Piece serial Luffy to my name, so those are my qualifications. That being said, if you want my Pokemon qualifications, just Google my name. It's pretty kind of a banger. But let's jump right into it. So Pokemon versus One Piece. Pokemon has been the card game that has been around since 2002 with, or I guess like 1999 technically, but like 2002 on the state side. Has had a lot of longevity, and the organized play program has been evolving year after year. Bandai has been around the block for almost every trading card game that has been under the sun, and they have come in and picked up One Piece, which is one of the more profitable titles. Like One Piece has become, the year of 2023 was the year that One Piece boomed with the live action, the anime reaching new heights, the manga going to the final arc, quote unquote, if you guys haven't watched or read. So everything is kind of coming together for the year of One Piece. Now, when the card game was released, One Piece and Pokemon differ in a few ways. One Piece decks are 50 cards, no more, no less, and Pokemon card decks are 60 cards, no more, or less. With Pokemon, you have an active and 5 bench, so you basically have to build your strategy around having an active Pokemon that attacks and a bench Pokemon that you kind of set up and have either support or a backup attacker, and can go through pretty much your entire deck in one turn with Pokemon. With One Piece, you have a leader and then up to 5 board. Your leader dictates what cards you can play in your deck. Now, what does that mean? If your leader is a red leader, that means you can only play red cards in your deck, typically. If it's like a red-black leader, you can play red and black cards in your deck, etc., etc. So your leader pretty much determines what that is, and your leader is like in play from turn one. It's your life, it's everything, top to bottom. One thing that One Piece and Pokemon do share is prize cards. Technically speaking, at the beginning of the game in Pokemon, you put out 6 prize cards to that you have to take on your own accord, and then in One Piece, you put out life depending on what your leader says, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each leader has a different number that represents it, and you put those out to grab them at a certain point. Now, that being said, those life is not dictated by you to take, but your opponent attacks into you, and you can choose to either take the life or counter out. And in that instance, you're building hand size, so taking life necessarily isn't a bad thing, versus in Pokemon where you have to attack, get to those win condition situations, and take prize cards. With One Piece and Pokemon, the setup stages are a little bit different. One Piece has something called an optional mulligan, where you look at your opening hand, you don't like it, you get to throw the whole thing back in and draw a new 5 cards. 5 cards versus 7 for Pokemon. In Pokemon, you draw your 7. If there's a basic Pokemon, if the other 6 cards are completely unplayable, you're locked in. I am so sorry. This might be a quick game for you. So that's something I really enjoy about One Piece. That's a huge plus point for me with the optional mulligan. I think other games could benefit from it greatly. Just one mulligan where you're allowed to throw your hand back in and get a new hand of 7 allows for players to play games more efficiently. And if we go from a best of 3 to best of 1 format that Pokemon or that One Piece or other card games have, then that mulligan makes a lot more sense, where you get to play that one game in theory. Now, going to tournament structure, we'll get to tournament structure later. Actually, I'm tangenting. So we've set up our game. The board is set up. You flip coins to determine who goes first. Heads or tails for Pokemon. High roll typically for One Piece. The winner of the coin will determine first or second, and you will set up and play the game. In Pokemon, you're not allowed to use any supporters, stadiums, or supporters or attacking on turn 1, but everything else is fair game. Attaching in energy, setting up your board, playing as many trainers as you'd like to set up your position, so you can establish a strong board state with these powerful trainer cards like Battle VIP Pass. And basically going first is an incredible advantage that until recently, until maybe like 4 months ago, playing to go second wasn't really an option, and that might actually become a thing in the future. When One Piece first came out, going first was pretty much exactly what you wanted to do, also every single time, but now going second has become better, because in One Piece, you have something called Dawn. Like, you have Dawn cards that are a deck of 10 Dawn cards. It could be anything. It could be your friend's driver's licenses. It could be 10 Chick-fil-A gift cards. Who cares, man? Those 10 Dawn cards are individual to you, and whoever goes first gets to pull one Dawn card from the deck. They don't get to draw for turn, and then you pass it over to the other turn. In Pokemon, you do get to draw for turn. You get to basically do everything. And then the person who goes second gets 2 Dawn cards as well as a draw for turn. And then each player will then get 2 Dawn back and forth as you go. So the ramp, you're basically just playing to ramp in One Piece, where you have to go like, oh, do I have a 3 cost play to play? Do I have a 5 cost play to play? Okay, sometimes the hands will just play themselves. That being said, there's been a lot of decks recently that are emerging that going second, because the 2, 4, 6, 8 Dawn curve is a lot better than the 1, 3, 4 or 1, 3, 5 Dawn curve, etc., etc. In One Piece, you can't swing at the other leader or attack with a minion that's played on the turn it's played unless it has Rush listed on it. Versus in Pokemon, you can basically set up a Pokemon on your bench on that turn with Nest Ball, get everything prepped, ready to go, and then just push into the active and start swinging. Both games are pretty good at building unbreakable boards, I think. One Piece has a really cool thing you can do with your life called triggers. So if your opponent attacks into you, there's sometimes where you can look at the card and be like, oh, this says trigger on it, and it'll have an effect that says like discard a card from your hand and you can put this into play. So sometimes those triggers are a little bit of the RNG that is involved in One Piece that get to catapult you ahead of a matchup that you shouldn't be in, or just get a little bit ahead where you sometimes wouldn't be. Pokemon doesn't have any of that. When you take a prize card, it just goes straight to your hand. Your turn is over. It goes to your opponent's turn. In Pokemon, when you attack, your turn is over. That is the end of your attack phase. You can do as many actions as you want for stuff that you want to do, but the moment you declare an attack with the required energies attached to a Pokemon, your turn is over. In One Piece, you can do a lot of different things in different order. So you can start your turn by swinging a character at their leader, and then you can say, okay, now let me start playing some cards. Now let me use my leader ability. Now let me use some of my Dawn. Like you could do 2 attacks and then start using some of your 10 Dawn. So in One Piece, it's a very fluid game. Unlike in Pokemon, where you have no counterplay from the opponent's side. So if I'm playing Pokemon and my opponent is doing a bunch of stuff to me, I don't do anything during their turn. I basically just sit there and I'm playing like Fruit Ninja on my phone. I'm having a good time. I'm looking around the room, seeing what's happening. But in One Piece, while my opponent is playing their turn, there are certain things that I can do. Like I can use active standing Dawn to play certain events to counter out of attacks. And if so they attack into me, each card sometimes in the top left-hand corner has something called counter. And you can use counter to get out of certain situations. Like you can block an attack on your life, etc., etc. So building hand size and starving people in One Piece is an art, versus in Pokemon, we just have a million cards in hand all the time, and we just slam an Iono in the late game to put our opponents down to 1 or 2 cards in hand and hope that they don't have the game the next turn. So this all being said, One Piece versus Pokemon, that's kind of how you play the game on the base side of both. But let's get to the tournament structure part of it. This is kind of where I have a little bit of gripes with One Piece, especially compared to Pokemon. With Pokemon, there's a very ordained tournament structure, but Pokemon has been around for 20-odd years. There's a world championship structure. There are internationals that are laid out. There are regionals. There's a clear goal to the world championships. Versus Bandai games, and I guess most other card games, realistically, they don't have a world championships that's readily available to a majority of players. Bandai's world championships for One Piece is 16 players. Only 16 players will attend this tournament, so it's not really something that everyone can go to. So Nationals becomes your world championship. Nationals becomes the end of the road for a lot of players. Like feasibly, you can't assume that you're going to get finals out of 2,000 people and book your ticket to Japan to compete in the world championships. It's just not a realistic thing to expect to happen. You got to get lucky throughout the road anyway. One Piece Nationals is a week and a half away, and we don't have a tournament structure. Like, we don't know if it's best of 1. We don't know if it's best of 3. We don't know if we're going to follow Bandai's rules that we continue to play until there's only 1 undefeated. That is something that Bandai does. We just play Swiss rounds until there's 1 undefeated. And if it's best of 1 with no top cut, that just means the guy who goes undefeated ends up walking out with the $5,000 prize card and other goodies. Like, you don't even get a chance to play top cut. You had 1 unlucky game, your tournament is over. Versus in Pokemon, we have 9 rounds of best of 3 Swiss that then allow you to move to the second day of competition if you have 19 match points or better, meaning a 6-2-1 record. And then you get to compete again for 6 more rounds to determine your spot in top 8 with additional prizing along the line. With One Piece, you do get these prize cards like finalist cards and booster packs, like 1 card event packs, and sleeves, but at a certain point it starts feeling cheap. It's like, okay, I got top 64, but I only lost 3 rounds of Swiss. I went 6-3. I went 7-3. I feel like I should get a little bit more than this potentially $20 card. In Pokemon, if you get top 64, you get 18 packs. Not the greatest either. But let's say you get top 32 in each respective game at a regional. With One Piece, you get a couple of finalist cards, let's say worth $400-500. In Pokemon, you get a flat $1,000 and you walk out with a booster box. If it's an international level event, which is a multiple thousand-person event, then you're walking out with $3,000 and you are getting championship points that will earn you to qualify you for the World Championships. Now, with One Piece and Pokemon, registration is a big thing for these tournaments. With Pokemon, it's become an increasing problem. These tournaments are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but regionals have their own individual slot for registration. Meaning, if there's two regionals happening, let's say on the same weekend, they will not be at the same time for signups. One would be at 7 a.m. potentially, and one would be at 7 p.m. So you have a chance to try to get into both, or you have a chance to apply for both. One Piece does not do that. They do have the benefit of webcam regionals that you can play from home, but you are stuck into this loop of just there's 4 that go up at noon, and you have to try to get into as many as possible. There's 1,000 seats for each one, but a lot of players will just sign up, and they won't even play in the tournament. They will just go 0-3 drop because the prizing gets mailed out to them regardless. So for $30, you're getting something that's worth a little bit more for your entry fee. So it's a net value. You don't have to show up. You don't have to leave your house. You basically can turn on your webcam like I'm doing right now and be like, hey guys, I have computer issues. See ya. I gotta scoop this round. Pokemon doesn't have online regionals. Pokemon has 0 online events and 0 online circuit. Play Limitless TCG has a for fun daily tournament structure each night, but that isn't that's not competitive. That's not for championship points. That's not for money. It's not for anything. It's like hosting a tournament in your parents' basement with some friends. So Pokemon not having an online circuit is definitely a big L. We don't have a ranked ladder either. But on the flip side, One Piece doesn't even have an official client. They have a sim that was created by somebody, so it's a little bit patchy, buggy, whatever, all you want to call it. And they're trying out some ranked ladder webcam stuff, whatever. So the One Piece community is very involved in trying to get these things up and running, but there's nothing official for either game in the semblance of a ranked ladder, but Pokemon has an official client. Now, with tournaments, like I said, nationals, up till about 2 months ago, November timeline-wise, One Piece players thought they could only go to the national championships if they earned a invite from a regional championship. And this invite list was on a PDF that had not been updated in months, so no one knew if they had qualified or not. Definitely not something becoming of a Bandai game, especially with something as prestigious as a national championship. And recently got updated all over one night, and they were told that, well, we don't have enough people to hold a nationals. We have like 200 people that have qualified with a world championship or a national championship invite in the US, in Canada. So let's just make it an open invite for nationals and add 2 buys for everyone who has an invite. So just a last minute change of what they wanted to do. So Bandai is very up in the air about that kind of stuff. And well, we still don't know the tournament structure. That's something that is still confusing and baffling to me. Now on the flip side with Pokemon, you have a very ordained structure. No matter what happens, it's 9 rounds of Swiss Day 1 into the 5 to 6 rounds of Swiss Day 2 into a top 8 cut. That will happen at every single regional, every single internationals, and then Worlds is the only one we don't really know what's going on just yet because every year the show changes just a little bit. The World Championship qualification structure changes just a little bit for each year, giving them an opportunity to try something a little bit new. In 2022, we had a 4-day World Championship tournament because of COVID, so we had a lot more additional tournament invites that showed up. In 2023, we went back to the 3-day structure, and in 2024, who knows what's going to happen in Hawaii. So, yeah, for nationals, it's a lot more fun, I think, and relaxed because a lot of players are able to attend because it's an open invite, and it's a little bit laissez-faire, I think, across the board. And I think it's going to be a cool experience for a ton of people by calling it something like Bandai Card Fest, where there's going to be a ton of other activities to do if you don't do well in the main event. And then on the flip side with Pokemon, the World Championships is more of a spectator show if you're not actually a competitor. There's a ton of events to do and play and enjoy yourself. Versus if you're a competitor, you have to grind year-round to get there and qualify. You have to work all year to put yourself into that position to qualify for the World Championships. But competitors get a really cool swag kit that is unique to them that year, and I think that's something that's very special. For Nationals, we don't even get a playmat in US and Canada. We don't even get a playmat saying welcome to Nationals, which I think really sucks. Like, if you're a player that has worked all year to get your invite in One Piece Nationals, or even just showing up for your once-in-a-lifetime experience, give us a playmat. Give us a promo card, something. A little bit of an L on Bandai's part. I feel like it's a little bit rough on the edges. And now finally, I want to talk about the product. With One Piece, Demand is high, supply is incredibly low, and it seems like scalping is at an all-time high. You can play the game for relatively cheap, but a tier 1 One Piece deck is no less than $400 or $500 even. And with each coming set, cards in older sets that are harder to get become more relevant because it's a universal no rotation game, meaning cards from the base set of One Piece are still legal. Pokemon does something really cool called rotation, and they work really, really hard on product that helps players play the game. So every time a card that seems broken or really, really good, they print it in like a tin, a box, starter decks, theme decks, whatever. So you could go to your local store, pick up a theme deck, and for like $20, and maybe spend $20 on TCG Player, and all of a sudden you have yourself a tier 1 competitively viable deck. If you look on Limitless TCG and see some of the decks that have top 8'd recently or even won regional championships of over 1,500 players, $50. That's all you need to spend to compete in a regional championship effectively for a deck. So getting into Pokemon is like the same as going to a sports game, just buying a ticket, going out to dinner with friends if it's an expensive dinner, you know? Versus something like One Piece, where if you look and you see a $500 deck, it seems like a little bit more of a time commitment. If you want to just play a couple events, go to locals. Like, I don't want to spend $500 on a deck if I'm just going to go to locals for like 3 times. Like, I don't know, the investment just sucks. You just can't do that. So that is a huge downside to One Piece right now, and it feels like that market is inflating to a degree that I think a lot of players don't like, and it's making it difficult for players to play because there's all these investors coming in, like Pokemon had for a little bit over COVID, investors in sealed product or whatever. But yeah, so that's really annoying for a lot of people who are trying to play the game. But I think the game is genuinely a lot of fun. It's a very different dynamic to what Pokemon is. Both have a lot of respective skill in their individual games. One Piece does feel a lot more binary in their decision making because you don't have as much card search or card draw. The most broken leader right now is Sakazuki, that allows you to discard a card and draw one every turn. And that ability is broken in a game like One Piece, but in Pokemon, we're discarding our hand and drawing 7 for fun. Like, Pokemon is a completely different game where you can see your whole deck by turn 3. In One Piece, you're maybe seeing your top 10 cards by turn 3 if you're lucky. So a lot more of a different dynamic and different skill set, a lot more binary gameplay in One Piece versus in Pokemon, but each have their own respective unique flavor of fun. And I just wanted to kind of talk about my perspective as a player who has played both. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me just talking about One Piece and Pokemon. And if you want to get into some games, I definitely, I'm here to help you guys with Pokemon as much as I can. I'm a One Piece enthusiast. I've been reading the manga since I was like 10 years old. So it's been 18 years that I've been reading as a weekly reader. So you guys know that I'm a huge super fan of One Piece as well, but Pokemon has also been my lifelong love. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It would help out a ton. And let me know in the comments below if you've dipped your toes into other card games that you might think are enjoyable, like Lorcana, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever, and what your primary card game is. That would be awesome to hear from you guys. I like to hear perspectives all the time. So thank you so much, and peace out.